Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, attraction coach and founder of The Goddess Next Door. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson, and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. Rebecca Lee is an intuitive designer. She leads and guides people to see the light in themselves and also in others. Clearing blockages, expanding consciousness, and providing meaningful guidance from your spirit guides, angels, teachers, and departed loved ones, Rebecca and her spiritual entourage serves as a guide and a catalyst in your path to becoming your highest and greatest self while creating a lifestyle that is worthy of you. A few weeks ago, I had an amazing session with Rebecca, which really helped me shift some old stuff that was creating blocks in my life. Since then, things have really opened up for me in my business, my love life, and my health. So if you have areas that feel stuck for you, you'll definitely want to connect with her. But before I chat with Rebecca, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the Awakened Goddess Show, and here's why. I have an absolutely amazing lineup of guests visiting with me in 2015. These guests include Mastin Kipp of The Daily Love, who is joining me in 2 weeks to talk about his book, Falling into Grace. Barbara Stanny, a woman who changed my perception of money, is joining me in February. And Gabrielle Bernstein, named a Next Generation Thought Leader by Oprah, is talking with me in March. Not to mention a week-long celebration in the spring when I bring on very special guests to help me celebrate my birthday. So visit theawakenedgoddess.com/subscribe to get the latest episode delivered right to your inbox. Now, let's get the year started off right with the first episode of 2015 on the Awakened Goddess Show. Thanks for listening. Welcome, Rebecca, to the show.
Thank you, Angela. This is such a blessing and honor for me to be here and to be able to share myself through your show. And you are a blessing to work with. So I love it. And I'm so excited to work with the energy of the people who listen to your show.
Fantastic. Yeah, you guys are in for a treat, I tell you. I was blown away by my session with Rebecca. So let's get to the juicy stuff. I know you have a really interesting story about how you kind of came about your gifts and talents. And, was there a catalyst that happened to open you up to your abilities?
There was, actually. Looking back now from where I am, I can see as a child things that happened in my life that are consistent with what I'm doing now. But really, I was 19 years old, and I was so very self-destructive. I had gotten divorced when I was 18. I got married when I was 16, divorced when I was 18, and was still trying to find myself. Very self-destructive kid, came from a lot of abuse, drugs, alcohol, the family and everything. And I was on my way to Florida to really just self-destruct. And I was in a van, and we made it to Atlanta. And in this parking lot, like the Kroger or something, this spirit came in, and it was so full of light and was asking to help me, that this isn't your path, basically this isn't your path, and ask if they could help, because spirit can't intercede in your life without permission. And so I thought I was crazy. Of course, I was high out of my mind. So
sometimes that helps, right? It opens up the gateway.
Right. Let's do it. Let's do this thing. And as soon as I gave permission, my whole life changed. There was it was a break. It was like it was almost like I was standing about 3 feet above the ground that I was on. And so, any high that I felt from the drug that I was on, that was gone immediately. But there was a shift. There was a shift in my perception. There was a shift in my reality. I started to begin to see people, spirits, animals. I could hear the thoughts of other people. I could feel more than anything. I felt everybody's pain. I felt their joy. I felt their sorrow. It was it was ridiculously overwhelming, and not knowing what was happening, I didn't know what to do. I thought I was losing my mind. So that happened there in Atlanta, and it took me about a year to be able to get that under control, to build that filter up to where I could really use the information they were giving me. They kept showing me signs and symbols and scenery, and everything made sense on one level, but then from my practical reality of what I had previously lived, nothing made sense anymore. So it's learning how to merge those two worlds together. That's kind of how I opened up to spirit. And now I can utilize what they're telling me, and that's helped to grow my business. It helped to start the business that I'm in. Actually, that was spirit directed. And then how I work with people is directly from spirit. It's always unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So I want to go back to standing in the parking lot.
I was inside of a van.
Oh, inside of a van.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm wondering, now that you look back with your abilities, can you perceive why in that moment it happened?
I think I was at a crossroads. That was in 96. That was April of 96. Earlier that year, that December and January, I went to Myrtle Beach and got to see the ocean for the first time. And as I was sitting in front of the ocean, that was really the beginning of the opening. It was like it became alive to me, and I started to notice that there's life force in everything that's around me. I started to be able to pick up on that. And I think from that time period of opening up to everything has a life, everything has a vibration, to getting to the point where I could actually interact with the entity that came forward, I think that time breach was significant. Mm-hmm. And because I had made the choice to give it up, I felt, at that point in my life, I felt like it didn't matter how good of a person that I was in this cycle of destruction, that it didn't matter what good I was, because I've always been honest, I've always had integrity, I've always treated people with kindness and respect, but I kept attracting these jerks of men that was just like, mirroring my father. So there was a lot of abuse, there was a lot of betrayal, there was a lot of that, and I just gave up. And I think spirit knew better for me, and luckily was able to come in and show me that I deserved better and how to attain that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm thinking that sounds like a pretty, I don't know if I want to use the word typical, because I don't like that word, but like when we each have our own breakthrough, that moment when we come in contact with our spiritual selves that very first time, it seems like the unfolding it usually happens over time. And that sounds like what you experienced.
Yeah, exactly. That from when I first seen the ocean to the time the entity approached me, that was gradual. Mm-hmm. And then it was like the floodgate opened. Mm-hmm. And there was just no going back after that. It just was. It was like, hey, you want to live this life? And I was like, sure. And so there it was. It was a complete transformation. I can no longer be who I once was. Mm-hmm. That's what a real rebirth is, I think. Yeah. You've emerged, and you can no longer be what you once was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like that was a definite choice point.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, how lucky for us that you made that decision. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, what's the alternative?
So for those people, and myself included, that feel like they're kind of at that brink for maybe whatever's next for them, and they have that door to open, and they're not really clear on what that means, what that is. They just feel like they're just on the verge of the next thing for themselves. How does someone invite that more into their life? Can someone bring that forth, that maybe that kind of experience, and help catalyze that?
I think so. I think you have to give permission. One of the universal laws is, we have free will. Mm-hmm. So to work with spirit and have them intercede in your life and bring openings and bring expansion and kind of move the energy a little bit more quickly for you, or help clear more quickly for you the things that are in the way, that you need to give them permission. So in prayer or in invitation and meditation, just to set and say, I give you permission to remove the blockages in my life so that I might see more clearly, that I might hear more clearly, that I might be more my authentic authentic self. Help me to stand in alignment with my truth, with my integrity. And just by saying those things and affirming those things, you give them permission to help get you in alignment, and doors do open that way. It does move more quickly. And the biggest thing, is to stop expecting it, to not, because it's never what you expect. It never looks like what you think it's going to look like. When I look back, and I would always be like, well, I want to be a medical intuitive. I want to be able to see through people's bodies. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to hear spirit. I want to talk to the dead people. I want to be able to give those communications. And then when I realized, wow, I've been doing that for the last 10 years,
Yeah.
It just didn't look like what I thought it was supposed to look like. I've been doing it this whole time,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why don't you tell us more about that? Because I know you have. Tell us each of the gifts that you have, and just really briefly, in case someone doesn't know what that means, just quickly say what that means, and then we'll take it to the next level.
Okay, so my strongest gift, the one that is my go-to, or what I would feel totally handicapped without, is empathy. I'm an empath. I feel, that's my eyes, basically. I can feel people's emotions. I can feel the energy in the room. I can feel spirits around me. I can feel the thoughts or the circumstances of another person, their life path, sometimes what they've gone through, that type of stuff. It comes through as feeling. Mm-hmm. Now, the other gifts that expand and enhance that empathy is clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. And that's not only being able to look with your physical eyes and see spirit or symbols manifest in front of you. It's an inner eye, which is kind of like a projection that's on the back of my forehead or something that I can see. Mm-hmm. I can see spirit that way, kind of from that inner eye, and work. And sometimes it's symbols that come through that way. Sometimes it's like when I'm doing a reading, I might look off to the side and see something out of the corner of my eye, but it's relative to the reading. That's also clairvoyance. Clairaudience is clear hearing, and that is sometimes with the physical ear. Sometimes it is like somebody speaking outside of you talking, but most often it's an inner voice that comes through, and it doesn't sound like yourself, and they never ever tell you something crazy. When you're working with spirit, the highest versions of light and love, that's who you're wanting to work with. It's never, ever scary. And even whenever they have warnings for you, it's not scary. And it's always positive and uplifting. So the thoughts that you hear, the words that you hear in your mind is very positive. And that's one way to discern the difference between your ego talking to you or what's the voice of spirit. It's always positive. Now, clairaudience also comes through music. Sometimes through song. You can hear stuff on the radio that'll amplify. It amplifies, and that's how you know it's your clairaudience working. I have a message for you. It comes through TV. It comes through like standing in line at Walmart, somebody's other conversation that'll just amplify in your ear that has an answer for you. That's clairaudience. And so I have that when I'm working with spirit. A lot of times I'll hear sounds or noises, and they'll tell me things that way. Claircognizance is like an inner knowing. And that's one of my strongest gifts. I know stuff. I don't know how I know that stuff, but I just know it. And when spirit kind of talks, it's not really through one channel. For me, it's like the combination of it all coming at the same time. So they might show me an image of a ring, but then I'll have an understanding of what that means and what that might mean to somebody else. So that's claircognizance. It's a knowing. And so what is that? That's clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, empathy. Feels like I'm missing one.
Well, medical intuitive, right?
Well, yeah, medical intuition, that came as I wanted to develop my healing gifts. When I first opened up and then began to realize that people could do stuff, I didn't know any of this stuff existed, and books would fall off the shelf at me. And Carolyn Mays' Anatomy of the Spirit was the first book that just really just fell right off the shelf at me. And I picked that up and read it. I was kind of going in and out of consciousness as I was reading this book. And it was like, wow, people can do this? I want to be able to do that. And immediately felt unworthy of ever being able to have a gift like that. Felt like God didn't know who I was. I didn't have any personal union, or how could I ask God for a gift like this? He doesn't know who I am, whatever. But as I started to learn more about energy anatomy and to be able to feel the energy fields around people and look at that was my passion. So now when I look at somebody with their permission, I don't ever try to just invade somebody's psyche or whatever, but I can look into their body and it isn't what I expected it to look like. Like, look at your bones and look at your, look at the various, like, peeling back one of those transparency papers doesn't look like that for me. I wish it did,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. Right? But I can kind of just hone in and do a body scan and see where the blockages are. It's again, that's that inner knowing, that clear cognizance. I know where the blockage is, and I know how to remove it. I just know how to touch the body or how to move the energy or what words need to be said or something along that line. Sometimes when I'm looking into the body, I can see like one woman that I worked with, I was doing a body scan with her. I was doing some healing work and massage work. I used to work as a massage therapist. When I touched her second chakra, I just about wanted to be sick. It was so putrid. It was horrible. Removing that energy there, removing that blockage. She ended up having a hysterectomy from that. But the sensation of it was so vile. All I could see was this dark matter around it, the stickiness. I worked with another woman who had needed gallbladder surgery that, I could see it just looks like soup almost to me. So sometimes I see stuff like that. Sometimes working with people like my dad, I had an interesting experience with a woman came in for something completely other than what I told her. And I said, something's going on with your heart. There just feels like you need to go and have a checkup here. Something doesn't feel right. The energy's not working right. And I couldn't see what it was, but I knew that something was wrong, and it was important for her to know that. And which isn't something I normally do, is say, hey, go see somebody because, I don't know. But this was like 3 or 4 years after the fact. My dad was renting a house, and she happened to be the realtor that was renting. She was like, I think I recognize her from someplace. And my dad was saying, this is what she does. She said, oh my gosh, I went to see her and she told me about my heart and this and that. And I never even gave it a second thought. And she said, I had to go in for some other operation and they found that. And she had some sort of blockage or murmur or something that was real significant. She had to have heart surgery for. So that's kind of how it shows up is that I'll just look and I'll see, dark spots on the bones or, but then on the other hand of that, seeing the physical stuff, if you don't know what to do about it, then it's no good. So spirit shows me what the emotional mental attachment is to it. So I work kind of on a mind-body level with the medical intuition to understand why the blockage is there. Why is that dis-ease being created in the first place? And so we work kind of backwards from, we work on the healing body to support it with herbs and nutrition and things like that. But primarily working on that mental and emotional aspect of forgiveness and removing resentment and what are the belief systems around this problem that's been created in your life, how it got there in the first place.
Yeah, that seems like really the core of so many different ways we work on ourselves, is it gets back to that the emotional blockages. It seems like so much goes right back to that. It's amazing we can really carry all this stuff in our bodies. So
right, yeah. Well, it's like putting weight in your backpack, and then you get used to carrying that weight. You don't realize it's there anymore. So then you put some more weight on it, and then you put some more weight on it, and we just adjust to like, well, this is just what my life feels like. And we don't realize that if you put the backpack down, the freedom that really is there. This is just the stuff you've been carrying forever. You don't even realize you're holding it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so your body says, hey, you forgot about this, and it manifests itself in disease.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how we can be getting messages and we just don't see them, we don't hear them, or we don't acknowledge them, and then things just have to get louder and louder and louder.
Right, that's spiritual 2x4.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need them.
Yes, definitely. So, okay, let's go back to when you were learning and kind of working with spirit in the beginning. I know that you have some really cool stories about the ways that you kind of had this learning process. So can you tell us about those? Something about like the lampshade and the...
Yeah, so I think they taught me, let me tell you, this is the first story that they taught me was about how it works. They kept wanting to teach me how it works. And this was before I knew anything about law of attraction or Abraham Hicks or The Secret or any of that stuff. I was a 19-year-old that grew up in the projects. I didn't know anything about it. But I used to like to play pinball. And so a vision opened up and I was standing in front of this pinball machine, and they said, we're going to teach you how it works. And I was still in the point where I was real skeptical about these invisible beings and these voices in my head, and, and I'm trying to play with it a little bit and have a good sense of humor. And I'm like, all right, show me how it works then, and have this big attitude about it. And they said, okay, so shoot up your ball. And they're always patient and loving with me, which is really, really wonderful, and a key thing to know that you are working with your true spirit guides or your angels. They're always patient, loving, kind. So I said, okay, I shoot the ball up, and the ball goes up the pinball machine and comes right back down. And they said, this is how it works. Whatever it is that you're asking for, whatever it is that you want, you can have. And I immediately said, yeah, right, because my life is so freaking wonderful, right? And they said, okay, shoot the ball up again. Never argued with me, not once. They said, okay, shoot the ball up again. So I did. And the second ball goes up there, and as soon as it gets to the top of the pinball machine, all of these little buzzers and bongs and knickknacks and things pop up, and my ball starts ricocheting around and bouncing around and bouncing around. They said, this is what your negativity does. And when they said that, again, that downpouring of information comes into my mind, and I start to settle down. I'm like, yeah, because I could see in my mind where I block stuff that I want, And so the ball comes back down to me, and I'm like, all right, this is starting to make some sense. I was starting to feel really cool. And I'm like, okay, now shoot the ball up again. So I shoot the ball up again the third time. You get 3 balls. And it bounced around a couple times, but it came back down to me. And when it did, I smacked the flippers. And they said, and just as much, excitement as Spirit ever talks to me, is this is what you do. This is what you do. As soon as we can finally get it to you, after all of the, getting through all of the noise, all the negativity, when you finally get it, you just send it away. So that's been one of my life lessons, is to learn how to receive. I'm very good at giving, but to learn how to receive and to accept the gifts that are coming to me versus giving it away. So, it whatever it is that's coming to me, to know that there's worthiness within me, and then to remove the illusions in my mind that says that this is real. So if I'm like trying to manifest a good man, or I'm wanting a good relationship, that I believe that no man can be honest or trustworthy. If an honest, trustworthy man finally makes his way into my life, I'm like, no, you're fake. Get out,
There's something wrong with you.
Yeah, that's how it works. And I've seen that with women again and again and again and again. They're asking for the love, and they get it, and they don't believe it. And so they flip it away. So that's one story, Spirit teaching me how it works. And so as I started working with that, they expand on everything that they teach. So, I had a boy, had a baby, and he was a year old. It was time for me to go back to work. And so I'm praying and asking, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And I could hear them, we want you to touch people. And instead of saying, well, I don't know how to do that, I don't have training for that, I don't have whatever, I just said, okay. And whenever you follow the voice of Spirit, whatever Spirit is telling you to do, if you just take it on that faith and you make that leap, you take that jump, the doors they'll just open. And they did. And so that was in May of 2001. I opened up my business. It was a brick and mortar, a little holistic wellness center. And by August of that same year, I had enough clientele to support myself. I quit my day job and have done that full time ever since. And, I ultimately went from welfare to supporting a family of 6, and by following what the voice of Spirit says. So I'm in this place, and I'm doing the healing work. People would walk into the door, and I would know how to touch them. I would know what to do with them, and it just expanded and expanded. And they came back to me, and they said, we want to teach you how it works. I said, you already taught me how it works. Spirit will tell us again and again and again, because we get it, but either we don't implement it and we don't practice it, or we're not doing it to the degree that we could be doing it. And that was my point. I did it sometimes. I did it off and on. I believed it, but, so.
Oh my God. I as you say that, I can tell you, I'm a journaler, and I have all of my journals, and I can't tell you how many times I've read back in my journals, and I'm like, but wait a second, that's the same thing I'm dealing with now. Why is this? This was like 10 years ago. Why is this coming back around?
We don't practice it to the degree that we need to. We get lazy. We think, yeah, I get that. So there's no more clearing work to do around it. The onion has layers, and you have to keep going deeper, and you have to keep going deeper, to get that deeper result. So they come back to me and they said, we want to teach you how it works. And I said, okay, they said, we want you to think about golf balls. And I'm probably 22 now, and I still have a pretty big chip on my shoulder. I still have a pretty big attitude about myself. And I'm like, whatever, I don't even know anything about golf. I don't like golf. I don't know any golfers. I don't care about anybody with golf. And they said, exactly, that's why we want you to focus on golf balls. We want you to know this, that this is coming from manifestation. We don't want you to think about something you already know about.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So they always make me just settle back down. Okay. So they said, we want you to think about, and they always say we to me. There never is an I in spirit. It's always we. We want you to think about golf balls. And I said, okay. And so for 3 days, we want you to think about golf balls, and that's it. So for 3 days, I just imagined these golf balls around me. I would imagine them. They're everywhere. I can't get away from them. So I had the mental mindset of the voice going through my head. There's golf balls. I can't get away from these golf balls. There's freaking golf balls everywhere. Everywhere I look, there's golf balls. I'm telling myself that again. And then visually, I'm seeing the golf balls around me there, and I'm looking at them in my mind to the point where I could see the ridges in them, the indentations, and the little scribe that's on it. And then I would bring in the incorporation of feeling, where I could feel the coolness of the balls on my body, like I'm swimming around in them. Every room of my house is full of these golf balls. And I did that for 3 days, and golf balls started showing up in my life. I seen them at Target. I seen them at Walmart. They were on people's ties. They were on the polo shirts. They were on cereal boxes. There were golf balls everywhere. I seen where people play golf. I lived in my town my whole life and never seen the golf course, but there was, it started to come through. And so I started to understand the way to pull that energy in. So that's a wonderful lesson in how it works.
Mm-hmm. So now, one of the things I always like to find out is something that you do in your own life, that you do maybe on a daily basis, that has really impacted you and your spirituality.
Okay, so the 3 things that I do basically is every morning I align myself with my highest and my greatest good. And you do that by remembering who you are, that you are light. The lampshade story basically is to know that you're not separate from your highest power. You're not separate from it. They showed me a light bulb and was trying to teach me that this is what you are. This is light. You are consciousness. You are what God is. And the only separation between you and God is what you pinch off. It's what you don't allow. And they said that when you're born into the world and we incorporate these lies, these illusions, it's like putting a lampshade over the light bulb. It doesn't shine as bright. Mm-hmm. And then as you're growing up and we become conditioned to believe certain ways, it's like taking silk scarves and putting it over the lampshade. And so that your light becomes dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And you start to recognize the dimness of your light is what you are. But that's not what you are. You are the bright, shiny sun that's beneath it. You are one with your source and with your creator. To stand in that space, to put yourself in that space every single morning and know that that's who you are, and you start living your day from that place of empowerment is the most important thing that you can do. Mm-hmm. That's the most important thing that I do every day. The second thing is to begin to apply the affirmations for what I want to manifest. If we're using the how it works or the law of attraction, you've got to be mindful of what you're thinking, and I like to sow my seeds. So I don't want to wait for somebody else to plant my seeds for me. I want to think about what is it that I want to accomplish today, or what is it that I want to accomplish long term, and I begin to go through a spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer that puts me in alignment with what I want. So I'm not trying to pluck up carrots if I'm wanting to grow corn, So
Right.
you want to do that. And one of the things that people can do, this is something I do with clients that are wanting to work in manifestation but can't keep their mind on track, is we play an armband game. And so they'll take a bracelet or a hairband. I primarily work with women. They'll take a hairband or something like that, put it on one wrist. And the goal is to keep that hairband on the one side of the arm for as long as you can. And it becomes really, really challenging to do it for 5 minutes, 15 minutes. But what you do is whenever you catch yourself thinking something negative, you take the band, taking a deep cleansing breath, say an affirmation that affirms the opposite of what you just thought. And when you blow that out, change your wrist. And so the goal is to keep that band on the one arm for as long as you can. Every time you're thinking something negative, it's not to keep your mind focused on, I'm thinking all these negative thoughts. it's to release the negativity as soon as you acknowledge that that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You breathe in, and now I'm going to think this. And that's all the thought that you give to that negative thought is, and now I'm going to choose this thought. Thank you for showing that to me, and go into something else. So that's a really wonderful thing that you can do every day. And the other thing, the last thing, is to ask for help. You're not alone. We have an entourage of non-physical beings that are supporting you, that you've incarnated with, that are here just to love you and be your cheerleaders and help you along. But you've got to ask them for help. You've got to surrender to that higher power and that higher authority. You've got to surrender to it and allow them to intercede and work in your life. So to create a God box, I have a God box. Looks like a little treasure box. I put all my worries in there, or all of my anxiety in there, or whatever it is that I don't want anymore. I can shove that in there and say, here you go. This is what I'm releasing to you today. This is what's pressing me down. This is what's weighing me down. And I know that if I turn this over, that it can turn into some treasure, some miracle, some blessing in my life. And so those are the three things that I do every day, that I start to do every day. The other thing that I do, and I do this kind of monthly because it keeps me, and it helps to improve my intuitive gifts. It helps me to kind of not obsess about everything that's going on. It gives me a check and a balance kind of, but I make up a monthly intuitive reading for myself where I give myself a theme for the month. This is the overarching theme for the month, what Spirit would like me to work with, or what's in my highest good to work with this month. So I do that, and then I do card readings for each of the week, and just 3 cards, beginning, middle, and end of the week. This is the theme of what this week is about. And then I keep a journal about that. So as I'm going through the week, I don't want to obsess about it. I don't want to kind of, but it gives me this check-in. It shows you not only how Spirit speaks to you, and how, if you're learning how to use oracle cards or tarot cards or something like that, it gives you something that you can go back to say, oh yeah, that's what that meant. Or, you can help to understand how Spirit is talking to you and how they're trying to guide you, and, or how you help to mess that up, or how you help to promote yourself, what was I supposed to learn out of this? And so I do that for myself each month.
Cool. Awesome. So I'm wondering, do you have any other additional, I know you've already given some great practical tips for the listeners. Are there any other tips you would like to leave them with?
Yeah, just, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, whether it's in spiritual development or intuition or healing, just begin where you are. We compare ourselves way too much, and we want to be like how somebody else is, or if I can only have their gift, or if I could do what they're doing, or do it like they're doing. You're never going to be somebody else. You're unique. You're who you are. And when you stand in that power of who you are, your own gifts, your own light is going to shine, and your unique vessel is going to attract to you the people that need you, the people that need your help, the people that need your wisdom. So you don't have to be anybody else. Just begin where you are. And when you are there fully and completely, that's where the magic is. That's where the magic will begin. So, from that point, from standing in that place of complete acceptance of this is who I am, and this is where I am with it. Whatever your limitations are, whatever your vice is, whatever your crutch is, just accept it fully and completely and begin where you are.
Mm-hmm. So true. Yeah. Okay, so as we were talking, there were 2 things that came up. So I always love to follow my intuition and just roll with it. So one question I am getting to ask is, what have you found are some, there are some obvious ways that we sabotage or block ourselves from connecting with Spirit or manifesting. What are those subtle ways that you see that people can maybe now start tuning into to recognize how they're blocking their connection with Source or stopping their manifestation? Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. The biggest thing that blocks us, whether you're trying to develop your own intuition or your manifestation or whatever it is, the biggest thing that blocks us is doubt and fear. And they're just 2 sides of the same coin. So learning how to release that is primarily important. And one of the ways to recognize that is look at what you're criticizing somebody else of. Look at the mirrors that are around you. We're all mirrors in each other's life. And when you look at somebody and you're like, oh, you need to get on this and you need to do this, and if you would just do this, then your life would be cleaned up. That is your mirror. And try, honey, to take that inside as best as you can and see where you're doing those same things. And it may not be as obvious to you, because we hide from ourselves. We're masters at deception when it comes to who we are,
Oh, yeah.
So to look at that, look at how you're criticizing somebody else and see if that could be a stumbling stone inside of you. And do what you're afraid of. Really, go out and do what you're afraid of. People talk to me and they say, "Gosh, you're just so brave. You're just so crap." I'm like, I'm scared of everything. I just do it anyways. I just do what I do because you can't let that hold you back. You just got to jump out and do it. And they're not. So you just whatever it is, you're going to be fine. So go and take the risk. Take the challenge. Try to think of it as an excitement instead of as a fear. It's an adventure.
Yeah. Well, I love how you were talking earlier, and I'm going to go back and listen to it again myself because I know I need to hear it, was how you listened to your guides and you just followed. You didn't analyze, you didn't think about it, you just went. And that was a great example with the golf balls and how you didn't give a rip about golf or golf balls. And so, I think often in our lives we get these little subtle messages and we don't pay attention because it doesn't make sense to us. So instead of maybe questioning or kind of poo-pooing something, at least for me, I'm hearing that I need to take a look at that and just follow. Yeah.
Just do it, really just do it. When it's coming from the voice of spirit, they never lead you wrong. It doesn't mean that the path that you're going to follow is sunshine and rainbows. There's challenges and because we're supposed to grow, we're here to grow and we're here to learn. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, but the outcome is always something phenomenal. It truly is. You just take the leap of faith, follow it, and they're going to show you the next step. Archangel Uriel has been working with me since the beginning, and he's like the guy that holds the lantern. He shows you the next step, but he doesn't show you the outcome. And you just have to take the step that's in front of you, and then you get to see the next step, and then you get to see the next step, and you just keep walking. You just keep moving forward. Having that faith and keep planting your seeds.
I love it.
To want to cultivate, right?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so the last request. I don't know why I'm getting it, and I've never done this before, so we're just going to do it. It's so much fun. Okay, so the request is to, I know you have a lot of Oracle decks, so for you to just randomly choose a card for whatever the message is for whoever's listening, the show, whatever happens to come up. So I'm excited.
Let's see. Let me just all right, what does Spirit want us to know? Okay, so...
Yeah, so you guys, I'm looking at her decks. She has, oh my God, how many do you have? 30, 20?
I have a ton. And, I'm a collector. And Spirit always tells me with each client which deck to use and how many decks to use. I never just use one. I don't want to say never, but they're usually layered because the meanings have layers and, the different ways to shuffle. It's so cool. I do have an Oracle card class and a tarot card class that people can take that teaches you how to choose the deck, how to clear it, how to consecrate it, all that stuff, and how to do the readings, which is a lot of fun. But for this one, we're going to use the Archangel Power Tarot. And I love these. Tarot cards are wonderful to use, but I'm so sensitive, being an empath to look at things that have violent imagery. I just can't do it. And most tarot card decks, have knives stabbed in people, but these don't. And they're beautiful, and they're a wonderful deck. So I'm just going to kind of shuffle around, and I'm going to ask for these listeners what's the most important thing that they can know and do right now. And so I have the Five of Michael, and I'm going to show it to you since you can see.
Wow.
And this is an air card, so it's representing the things that are in your thoughts. And so it has Archangel Michael on it, and he's got his vacuum out, and he's sucking up all of this debris. And so the most important thing for the listeners right now to do is to release their garbage. It's about releasing your attachment to things that don't serve you anymore. It's about letting go and taking a more uplifting approach to life. It's about, really allowing yourself to flow into a higher mindset, to, the backpack that we were talking about, set it down. You don't need to carry it anymore. Mm-hmm. One of the spiritual lessons that I was taught was and holding something uncomfortable in my hand, just like the backpack exercise, to hold that and to squeeze it. And then we started having a conversation, and we're talking for 20 minutes. I'm holding this pencil or whatever it was in my hand. And, we start to think that it becomes a part of us. Mm-hmm. And it's not. And if you just turn your hand over and drop it, that pencil, that idea, that negative circumstance, the situation that happened, even though it was a situation that happened to you, if you can change your mindset that this happened to me instead of into this happened for me, that's a whole shift of energy. When you can change that perception, that I'm not victim, and I'm not even victor, that I am creative, it changes the energy, it changes the perception. And that's what this card is about. It's letting go of the situations and circumstances that just don't serve you anymore. Mm-hmm. So I would invite you to look into your life and release. Go and purge. Get out your God box and start writing down all your stuff that doesn't serve you anymore, your negative mindsets, negative beliefs, anything that limits you and holds you back. Write it down. Get it out of your body. Have a ceremony. You give it all over to Archangel Michael and be free with it. Be done with it.
Awesome. Okay, you guys heard it from Rebecca, so all right, cool. All right, so Rebecca, for those people that would love to connect with you and learn more about you, where can they find you?
You can find me at meaningfulguidance.com. That's my website. I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/meaningfulguidance. Or my Skype ID is Meaningful Guidance. You can connect with me there as well. So send me an invite and let's chat.
Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was such oh my gosh, so much good stuff came out of this conversation today. So thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. If you had as much fun as we did, make sure to subscribe on iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and review. Until next time, goodbye everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Awakened Goddess. I hope you enjoyed today's show and took away something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at thegoddessnextdoor.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.